Greetings. Today I will talk about another historic site near Vincennes, Indiana, Indiana's oldest town, Fort Knox II. Before getting started, I would encourage you to subscribe to the Mossy Feet Books YouTube channel for more great content. If you like my videos, please hit the like button. The more likes I get, the more YouTube will show it to other people, allowing me to grow the channel. I also encourage you to visit my website, www.mossyfeetbooks.com. There you'll find sample chapters, podcasts, and a slew of content and links to where you can buy my books. While visiting the website, you can subscribe to it and receive email notifications of when I publish a new book or other content, like this video and podcast. This episode is based on my book, Southwest Indiana Road Trips. Vincennes was the site of 5 forts during the colonial, revolutionary, and post-revolutionary periods of United States history. The French built a fort called Fort Vincennes in 1731. The French held Vincennes until the end of the French and Indian War. The French surrendered the fort and most of their North American possessions at the conclusion of this war in 1764. The British commander, Lieutenant John Ramsay, rebuilt the fort. He renamed it Fort Sackville to honor the British Battle of Minden hero, George Germain Lord Sackville. Lieutenant Colonel George Rogers Clark took Fort Sackville during a frigid midwinter campaign in 1779. He renamed it Fort Patrick Henry. The old fort fell into disuse. The United States built a new fort a short distance from the ruins of Fort Patrick Henry in 1787 and named it Fort Knox. Friction developed between the fort's garrison and the town's populace, and Indiana Territory governor petitioned the federal government to build a new fort. Construction completed on this fort in 1803. The new fort was 3 miles north of the city of Vincennes. Known as Fort Knox II, the fort had an excellent view of the river. Governor Harrison used the fort to gather military force he would use against the American leader Tecumseh at the Battle of Tippecanoe. After the Battle of Tippecanoe, the native tribes were no longer a threat, or posed less of a threat. However, the War of 1812 had broken out, and Vincennes was vulnerable to attack by the British. So the American troops disassembled the fort, floated it downstream, and reassembled it on the site of the former Fort Knox I. On February the 10th, the Army abandoned Fort Knox II and moved the garrison to Fort Harrison at Terre Haute. The original site of Fort Knox II, 3 miles north of Vincennes, is now an Indiana State Historic Site. The fort's location is outlined with posts under a short trail with interpretive signs. The Fort Knox II is about 10 miles north of Vincennes on Old Fort Knox Road. This Indiana State Historic Site is located on a back road in an out-of-the-way location. However, there are signs leading the way and it is not difficult to find. The fort has not been restored. However, state personnel have outlined the known perimeter of the palisade walls with wooden posts and, by archaeological excavation, found many of the fort's features. A series of bronze plaques tells the history of Fort Knox II from its construction to its dismantlement. Soldiers disassembled the fort to reassemble it in Vincennes, building Fort Knox III in the process. It will take about 45 minutes to read all the plaques and ponder what went on here in this now quiet and restful spot. The address for Fort Knox II is 3090 North Old Fort Knox Road, Vincennes, Indiana, 47591. This episode is based on my book, Southwest Indiana Road Trips, available on the website www.mossyfeetbooks.com. The book is the first book and is the third book in the 9-volume Indiana Road Trip series. The books include all historical markers as of 2022 in Indiana with text and backstory. The books also include a nearly complete listing of virtually every tourism destination in the state. The destinations include parks, museums, drive-in theaters, bowling alleys, wineries, and